Russia is taking its nuclear rhetoric to the extreme, but the problem is that Russia has already quietly deployed its nuclear weapons to places where NATO never expected. Today, the presidents of Belarus and Russia, Lukashenko and Putin, held a joint training session via video link with military units responsible for the use and support of nuclear weapons. This was the first joint training of this kind, and Lukashenko and Putin boasted that they could, at any moment, launch nuclear weapons against their adversaries in a coordinated manner. And Putin once again stated that the nuclear triad should supposedly work to deter adversaries, but the problem here is much bigger. What we see is just on the surface. But what is hidden is the following. NATO intelligence services have been tracking the actions of Russia's northern fleet for some time now, which may indicate attempts to place missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads on the seabed. A secret project codenamed Scythians may have been underway for several years, but it was only noticed now. And believe me, as experts say, this is a very, very alarming sign. So, let's figure this out together. So, the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin was once again brandishing the nuclear cudgel today. The nuclear triad must continue to serve as a reliable guarantor of the sovereignty of the Russian Federation and Belarus, and as a tool for maintaining global parity. Such a statement was made today by the balding Russian dictator Vladimir Putin during a video conference conversation with the Belarusian potato dictator Alexander Lukashenko, during a joint exercise with military units for the operational use and support of nuclear weapons. And now I'll give you a hypocritical quote from this balding dwarf Vladimir Putin. The use of such weapons can only be an extreme and exceptional measure to ensure the national security of the two states. At the same time, given the growing tensions in the world, the emergence of new threats and risks, our nuclear triad, as before, must serve as a reliable guarantor of the sovereignty of the Union state. Belarus's nuclear triad must ensure strategic deterrence and maintain global parity and the global balance of power. And the point is that these exercises were aimed at, and the Russian Federation's exercises were aimed at practicing the actions of officials in command and coordination when using nuclear weapons, including those deployed on the territory of Belarus. So, in fact, it's a kind of simulation of how Minsk would act on Moscow's orders to launch simulated nuclear missiles. Today, Lukashenko made a highly publicized visit to a missile brigade of the Belarusian armed forces in the Pechiy district and stated that he had previously dreamed of having Russian Iskander systems, and now he finally has them. According to Lukashenko, the Iskander is an excellent weapon. He also familiarized himself with the work of the brigade's command post, all as part of this ongoing nuclear hysteria. Earlier, the Belarus Ministry of Defense announced the start of exercises for units on the combat use of nuclear weapons. These nuclear exercises began on May 18th, as the Belarusian Ministry of Defense previously announced, and are being conducted jointly with Russia. Одичалыми военными. Later, information appeared that Russia had already delivered nuclear munitions to field storage sites on the territory of Belarus. During the visit, Lukashenko listened to a report on the actions involved in preparing and carrying out a nuclear strike in electronic format. He was shown a launcher, Iskander-M, and a simulated nuclear missile strike, but without the actual launch of a missile. Well, here's what's important. While Russia and Belarus are conducting these nuclear exercises, it's obvious they're trying to somehow intimidate NATO. Within the alliance itself, they were even more shocked. NATO intelligence services have been monitoring the actions of Russia's northern fleet for some time now, which may indicate attempts by the Russians to place missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads on the seabed. The secret Russian project, codenamed Scythians, may have been underway for several years already, according to German media reports today. And it has emerged in recent months. NATO intelligence has been studying this Russian missile project, analyzing satellite images, researching Russian scientific databases and historical documents, and obtaining information from military personnel and intelligence officers. Launchers on the seabed would create a serious problem for NATO in the event of war, since they would be difficult to detect and destroy. The fear that nuclear powers could hide their nuclear weapons somewhere in the world's oceans has existed since the Cold War. And that's exactly why. In 1970, a United Nations resolution adopted a treaty prohibiting the placement of nuclear weapons and other types of weapons of mass destruction on the seabed and ocean floor and in their subsoil, which was then signed by about 80 countries around the world, including the then Soviet Union and the United States of America. But in this case, the missiles under the SCIF project are planned to be installed in the Arctic Ocean on Russian territory. That is, these are Russian territorial waters, so formally it seems they are not violating this treaty. According to Western intelligence sources, they may be located on the seabed in a specially positioned launch container. In the Arctic Ocean. If the missiles were deployed, they could remain there for a long time and be launched remotely if necessary. So in fact, it's on the seabed. A launch container is installed on the seabed, fixed there, and it stays as long as needed. When necessary, it is launched remotely, and the missile takes off from there. For deploying the silos, the military transport vessel Zvezdochka, based in Severodvinsk and built for transporting heavy equipment by sea, will be used, as well as, probably, the special submarine Sarov. This is indicated by NATO sources. Helge Adrians is an officer in the German Navy and a research fellow at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs. He considers such a project as an attempt to reduce dependence on very complex and expensive platforms for launching missiles, such as submarines. By having underwater silos, Russia could maintain its nuclear potential even with limited financial resources. That is, Putin is simply trying to somehow save money by placing intercontinental ballistic missiles on the seabed. In this officer's view, it has two key advantages. First, neutralizing them seems to be very expensive. Expensive because you need to figure out exactly where in the sea or ocean this launch silo is located, try to attack it, and so on. Secondly, this method allows you to save money on submarines and their crews. With relatively little effort and expense, Russia could achieve the same effect for which it currently needs manned submarines. But of course, such a project also has its downsides. Well, you have to deal with ocean currents and silt buildup in the silos. It will be necessary to solve extremely complex technical issues related to missile deployment, power supply, and data exchange with them. This will certainly help the widespread adoption of this technology if the Russians actually manage to achieve it. But nevertheless, it is clear that they are trying to make this opportunity a reality for themselves. And it's very important that NATO has noticed this, hopefully at an early stage. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.